Yeah, we're thrilled to be here. Obviously, anytime you're preparing to play a game at this time of year, that means you're still alive, and this is where you want to be as a coach in a program. And I know these players are excited that we get to represent what I think is the absolute best university in the world. And when we put that uniform on, we understand that we're doing a lot more than just playing a basketball game, but we're showcasing what I think is one of the most unique educational experiences that you can get. And we're really blessed that we get to do that, and we get to do that on a really big stage, on a national spotlight, a nationally televised game against one of the all-time great programs in the history of women's basketball in their home court and in this great basketball state. So we are so thrilled, excited to be here, and we're ready, and we're rested, I think. We got another night to get a good rest, but yesterday was an exhausting, difficult game, so we're going to have to be really sharp about how we bounce back and prepare for a really, really good Tennessee team.
All right, we'll now take questions for student athletes Destiny Wells and Madison Bartley. Right over here on the right.
For both Madison and Destiny, Maria Cornelius, 247 Sports, Tennessee. Just what is the significance of playing the second round game here against Tennessee, and how are you guys doing after that? I mean, it was a huge win yesterday. Have you come down from that, or are you still sort of riding that high?
I would say that we always talk about, look in the mirror for 15 minutes is what Coach Bart tells us. And after that 15 minutes, it's like we have so much adrenaline from yesterday. So we just try to, we celebrated, but now today is focusing on Tennessee, and we need to get our mind straight for Tennessee today. And I think that is just what we're focusing on.
Yeah, we're really proud of ourselves and the way we played last night, and now we're just turning the page and getting ready for Tennessee. I mean, I'm so happy to be here. Can't wait to play in front of that huge crowd and on this big stage. I mean, it's going to be amazing. I can't wait.
Kellyanne, you're in front.
Kellyanne Stitz, WATE. This is either for Destiny or Madison. What does it say about this team to outlast Oregon in double overtime, and just how tough you guys are?
I would say as a team, throughout the year, we have always focused on being tough and being together. And that's just one thing that we've always focused on. And I think yesterday we really showed the world that we can fight through adversity, and that we fought through every single overtime that we went through. I think if we would have even went one more, we still would have fought through and won that game. And I'm just proud of our team for fighting and sticking through together.
Cora Hall, and then Teresa.
Cora Hall, the Knoxville News Sentinel. This is for either of you guys, but you guys obviously faced a lot of size last night, and you're going to face that again inside with Tennessee. Do you feel like that was almost kind of a blessing to have that first round challenge to kind of learn and prepare for now Tennessee?
I mean, that's exactly what we played against in our non-conference schedule, and me being so small is what I played against my whole life. So, I mean, we're going to be ready. Just come out there and fight like we do every game.
Yeah, I would say last night the size definitely prepared me for tomorrow. Playing against, they were great bigs, and it really prepared me to be ready for bigger sizes tomorrow. And I think that's something that all of us can take away from.
Teresa Walker, the Associated Press. I've got two questions. First, for Madison, when you're trying to stay
many championships they won. They're just a great team all around, and like I'm just happy to be here and get to play against a great team and basically show what I can do and play against this great crowd on a great floor, and I'm just really excited.
Right over here on the right.
For both players, the Belmont fans turned yesterday into a home game. I mean, they were loud. The majority were right behind me, and it was deafening behind me. Did they all stay in town? Are you expecting a good turnout of your fans for tomorrow night?
I'm going to say yes. We found out the students got a provost letter, so we're hoping the whole school turns up, and that would be just amazing for us. And even yesterday, like, our fans were such a big part of that win, hearing them cheer with us and celebrate. And like you said, they made it a home game for us, and only being 3 hours away is really big, just a really big difference for us.
Yeah, especially coming from last year where we couldn't really have fans. And, I mean, it was amazing to see how many people actually support us and were willing to make this drive. And I'm excited to celebrate with my family after every game, and they were there, so it meant a lot to me.
And this for either of you guys. Bart said last night that in regard to kind of the chip on your guys' shoulder, there are players who felt under-recruited, felt like they could be at this level too, and that kind of drives the chip on your shoulder. Is that kind of the feeling that you guys have that you can still be really competitive, and does that kind of drive your guys' team?
Oh, yeah, I mean, rankings don't really matter to us. Like, we just come out there, we play our game, and we know we can basically compete with anybody in the country, and we just have to show it. And I feel like our fight against Oregon really showed that.
Yeah, and I think something I was always told is that everyone puts their shoes on the same. And that's something that I go by. So when she said rankings don't really matter, when it comes to this part of the season, whoever's the toughest team is going to go out there and fight and win the game.
Down here on the left.
Tyler Wombles with the Daily Times. For either player, going back to that win against Oregon, I mean, it was apparent just how much you had to fight to get that one, and you eventually did. Is there anything that you guys said to each other or to teammates to sort of get yourselves amped up and know that, we can overcome this in overtime?
I mean, something we've been saying to ourselves in the locker room all year, just stay the course. And I feel like that was what we did, and play together. It's one of our keys to our game, every single game. Be resilient together, and I feel like we showed that.
Yeah, and I feel like last night, all of us, through the tough times and the good times, we all looked at each other and we were like, we got this. Every time, like, someone looked down. I know I looked at Dee, and it was like, 6 seconds left. And she was like, we got this. And I was like, yeah, we got to get a stop, though. Six seconds left still. I was still worried about the 6 seconds. But that was our key. Like, we got this, and we backed each other up that whole entire game. No matter if we were high or low, like, we had each other's backs, and that's something that's super important in our program.
Any more questions for our student athletes? All right. Destiny, Madison, thank you both for joining us.
Thank you.
Now I'll open up. You can take questions for head coach Bart Brooks. Over here on the right, Maria.
Coach, is it time to retire the term mid-major? Have we got to come up with a much better word than that?
I like it when we can motivate our players that people think we're mid-major players, that we're a level below. That's a cool spot to be in as a coach, that you can use that as motivation. I've said this about Destiny and Jamelin and Tootie. We'll have the 3 smallest guards on the floor most of the time tomorrow night, and 3 smallest players on the floor. There's nothing small about how they play, and there's nothing small about how we operate our program. There's nothing small about running a program that has an emphasis on basketball at a high level, on academics at a high level, on community engagement at a high level, on spiritual growth at a high level. And, we can offer all 4 of those things at a really high level. There's nothing small about that. There's nothing small about Belmont. And that's what we preach to these kids when we recruited them. That's what we preach to them when we coach them. And when we get a chance to compete against the big guys, we don't view ourselves as small or mid-major. We view ourselves as equals. And we love the opportunity to go prove that. And so, Destiny's been playing against bigger kids her whole life. I mean, what's the difference in 6'6" and 6'3" when you're little? There's not that big a difference, So I'm just excited for these kids. They get a chance to compete at that level. And, you know, the mid-major thing, I love it to motivate them. But other than that, yeah, let's get rid of it.
Teresa down here in front.
Teresa Walker, the Associated Press. Bart, you say that and viewing yourselves as equal, but when it comes to NCAA tradition and tournament history, there is a big gap between the program you're going to face and what you all are building there at Belmont. What's the approach? How do you attack, dealing with and talk about dealing with facing that team that, sometimes just seeing that name on the front of the jersey can be intimidating in itself?
Yeah, I mean, I think from the outside looking in, that's a big name when you see it in women's basketball. We went to the Women's Basketball Hall of Fame on, I don't know what day it is anymore, whatever day before our first game, and it's pretty hard to walk away from that building without having already myself having a huge respect for this program, but to just really understand what this program has done for the women's game. But when we play, it's not about a name on a jersey. It's not about a ranking or a number next to a team. It is about the matchup, and it's about the player that's in front of you and you doing your job and executing the possession. And, we don't have to play against the however many national championships. We don't have to play. We have to play against this Tennessee team tomorrow night at 7 o'clock. And that's what we're preparing for. And our players, we don't talk about all this outside stuff. We don't talk about it. We talk about executing the possession that's in front of us and how we're going to get our shots, how we got to defend them, what we got to take away, play to our strengths, try to exploit their weaknesses. I think maybe from the outside looking in, that could be an issue, but I think our players are pretty focused on what their job is and who they're competing against. And they know these players. I mean, they played against them in AAU and, growing up, there's a lot of familiarity with their roster. So, I don't think it's going to. I know we're not going to be scared of these guys. We're gonna come out swinging.
Madison Hawk, WBIR TV. Coach, obviously the 12 threes played a huge factor in yesterday's win, but Belmont was outworked in the paint and out-rebounded. So when you approach Tennessee and a player like Tamari Key, just how do you defend that?
Yeah, speaking of Belmont being a great place, case in point right there in Miss Madison. They got a lot. I can't remember the exact number of offensive rebounds they got last night, but their second chance points were pretty small. So a lot of those second chance shots they got were still guarded, tough shots, and I think that's a really big key for us. That I don't expect us to beat them on the boards tomorrow. If we scrap and claw and fight and do the best we can, we're probably still going to give some up. But those can't turn into easy layups, and I think that's been a really big key. And they're unbelievable on the glass. I mean, this is probably the best rebounding team we'll play against this year. So we've got our hands full in there, and I thought we played against a really big, aggressive offensive rebounding team last night, and they exploited us some, and I thought we did a pretty good job of fighting and competing, though, and there's things we're going to give up, but, hopefully we can take advantage of some things at the other end, and that's why basketball is a beautiful game. You can win a lot of different ways, and I think our last two tournament wins, we've been out-rebounded by about 20 a game. We've won the games, so there's a lot of different ways to win basketball games.
Cora Hall.
You touched on it a little bit, but based on what you saw from Tennessee yesterday, where do you feel like you guys can find the most success against a team that is definitely kind of similar matchup-wise to Oregon, with big presence in the middle and guards on the outside?
Well, I don't think Tennessee has a shot blocker, do they? They have a good shot blocker? I'm kidding. They have a great shot blocker. Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of similarities, and then also I think a lot of differences. I think Tennessee is one of the best, most disciplined defensive teams that we'll play against. I think they do a really good job of making things difficult. I'm not sure. I wish I had a better answer for you. I watched a lot of film, and sometimes as a coach, when you prepare for these games, you're just waiting for that get struck by lightning and have a epiphany about how we're going to get it done, and I'm not sure I'm to that place yet, but we've got a lot of stuff in our back pocket that we can use, and our normal flow and our concepts that I think is gonna get us some looks, and then as we play and as we understand, how we're being guarded in certain scenarios and situations, we've got to adjust and be ready to adjust. And there's a lot of different ways that we can attack them. But the biggest part of it is they're really, really solid at that end of the floor. So we're going to have to work really hard to get shots. And when we get them, we got to make them.
Any more questions for Coach? Right here, Teresa.
Coach, you said your team will not be intimidated, and you bring up a really good point. Historically speaking, in these NCAA tournament games, particularly the first and second round, jersey names would intimidate. You could see it on the faces when the players stepped on the court. Tennessee benefited from that for years. UConn has benefited from that for years. I am seeing that across the country. These teams are not walking out there scared. They're walking out there ready to challenge. One thing Pat Summitt wanted, she worked her whole career for, was parity in the women's game. Do you think it has finally gotten to that point? And it obviously can go further, but do you think we can say that women's basketball parity has finally arrived?
I think so. I mean, I think there's the gap between a 14 seed and a 3 seed. I didn't watch the game, but I saw the score, the LSU score yesterday, and there's a lot of really good basketball teams out there. Whoever played Iowa State, that was a really tough game on Iowa. I mean, I think there's really competitive programs at all levels of women's basketball. And when you get in this tournament, the beauty of this tournament is it's one game. It's not a 7-game series. It's a one game. The day you play, you got to be really good, and you got to beat them one time. And I think that there's magic in that these players understand. It's anything is possible at this time of year. And I think the parity of the women's game, since I've been in it, I've got a little bit of gray hair. So I've been doing this for a little while as an assistant and now as a head coach. And I think it's exponentially better than it's been when I started. And I see it continuing to get better, especially the more, being on national TV yesterday. So, wherever you are in the United States, you could have watched that game. That's a really cool thing for our program.
Cora?
There's certainly much more pressure on Tennessee to win this game, who hasn't been to a Sweet 16 since 2015-16. And with the history of the program, there's that expectation. Is that kind of, in a way, maybe freeing for your team to not have that load of expectation of you have to win this game to live up to these expectations?
Yeah, I mean, I think it could be. I think there's whatever position you're in as a coach, I think you use it to your advantage. And if you're Tennessee, you approach it one way. If you're us, you approach it another way. And I think we're going to use that to our advantage. That we're coming after it. We talk all the time that you're never defending anything in this sport. You've got to go take it. You've got to go take it. And that no one's going to hand it to you. It's not going to be given to you. You've got to go take it. You've got to earn it. And that's the approach that our players have had all year. And that's what we're going to, as we enter this game, that's how we're going to look at it. And the pressure, everyone handles that differently. We've got a unbelievable baseball coach, Coach Jarvis, who told me pressure is like unicorns and dragons. It doesn't exist. It's not a real thing. It's in the mind. And that's it. So I think players handle that differently. Programs handle that differently. But we'll try to use that to our advantage as best we can, for sure.
We've got time for one more. All right. Thank you, Coach, for joining us.
Thank you, guys.
at the table by Tennessee head coach Kelly Harper and student athletes Jordan Walker and Alexis Dye. We'll open up with an opening statement from head coach Kelly Harper. Take it away.
Yeah. Well, we're our team's really excited to be playing tomorrow. We know we have a tough opponent, very gritty opponent who executes well on both ends of the court. So we know it's a huge challenge, but our team's really excited, and hopefully we'll be prepared and ready to go come 7 o'clock tomorrow night.
All right, well, now to open up for questions for our student athletes. Right over here on the right.
Jordan, obviously Belmont is a very guard-oriented team, and this is going to be a very guard-oriented game. Just what are the guards' thoughts, and you, of course, at the point guard spot going into this game?
Looking at Belmont, like you said, they have really good guards, and they're able to score at many different levels. I think that the most important part for us tomorrow is just going to be able to be guarding one-on-one, sitting down, guarding screens, being able to guard the three, and just playing with heart.
This is for either of you guys, but Belmont hit 12 threes last night, and Kentucky was able to do that against you guys in the SEC tournament. What do you feel like you guys maybe learned from that game that you'll carry into this one?
I think having that Kentucky game, hindsight now, but looking at it, we're able to guard. I think that we've been working on that, in our time before playing yesterday. So just coming into the game, making sure that we're able to guard the three, I think is going to be really important for us. And looking back at that Kentucky game, that's a little bit of a fire under us because we know what, the outcome is if we're not able to guard that.
Right over here on the right.
Alexis, the Buffalo coach yesterday said they could not do anything to keep you off the glass. They said they got Tamari boxed out a couple times, but they could not stop you from getting on the board. She called you a juggernaut on the glass. Just how key, and Belmont, of course, knows Tennessee rebounds so well. Just how big of a factor are rebounds going to be tomorrow night?
It's going to be a big factor because I was watching their game yesterday, and they were rebounding against, Oregon. They tall and stuff. So it was just like, we got to have a lot of movement, so we got to just fight over those box outs. We just got to still go grab those rebounds. Even if they boxing us out, we just got to push a little harder.
This is for both of you guys, but, I feel like anyone who's watched men's basketball the last few years, realizes the kind of closing the gap between the mid-major teams and the Power 5 teams in the tournament. Especially this weekend, I feel like that has been apparent with both of you guys transferring in from mid-majors. What is that like for you to kind of see that maybe respect being given to these teams now in the tournament?
I think that now, like with the tournament play, any team in the tournament is capable, of playing. They've won their conference, and obviously that they can play. So I think that it's good for the mid-majors, but I also think that it's just kind of like it's March now. Everybody here, everybody in the tournament can play. So every single night you have to come out and play, no matter the opponent, whether it's Power 5 or mid-major or whoever.
Any more questions for our student athletes? Right here.
For both Alexis and Jordan, obviously you're not here to carry the burden of Tennessee teams' past. You're aware of the history. With that said, Tennessee has not been to a Sweet 16 since 2016. Would that be a meaningful milestone to be a part of to get Tennessee back to that point for both of you?
Yes, I feel like it would be a beautiful milestone because For me, I never been to a Sweet 16. I never passed the first round, actually. And I'm pretty sure my teammates would, love and cherish this memory forever if we was able to make it to the Sweet 16.
Yeah, I think Snoop got it in a nutshell.
Teresa?
For both of you, while trying to deal with getting on the boards and dealing with the inside game, Belmont knocked down 12 threes last night, and they shoot it. Almost everyone can shoot it and knock it down. What's the challenge when you're facing a team that can shoot it like that, of making sure you're getting out and defending on them, and while keeping them from hurting you that way?
I think that the challenge is chasing them off the three a little bit, making them make contested threes versus just wide open threes. I think that's going to be a big difference with making threes for any team. If it's wide open, of course you can knock it down, but if it's contested or you're being chased off the line, I think it's a little bit harder.
This for either of you guys, but I know we've talked about, the adversity what this team has been through, and, once was projected 1 seed, very much everyone thought that this was just kind of a given that you guys were going to make this run. But given, what you guys have been through, what does it mean to actually be at this moment and have that opportunity still in front of you to take?
I think that, honestly, this opportunity is perfect for us. I think, with being able to win this game and going to the Sweet 16, like, it just kind of sums up, the season that we've had. We've been through a lot, and I feel like if we continue to fight night in and night out, we'll be able to go as far as we want. And I feel like that's been something that we've been saying all year, but it's so true with this team. Like, if we just go out there and we do what we're supposed to do and we fight and give effort and play together, I really feel like the sky's the limit for us.
For both players, Belmont, obviously, there's no pressure on them. They're playing Tennessee's home court. They're another Tennessee school. The pressure, of course, if you even choose to call it pressure, gets put on Tennessee. With that in mind, how important is a good start for you guys? Because their fans are going to be here. It's going to be should be a pretty raucous crowd.
I feel like a good start is what we need, but one thing is that we need to keep that. Like, we don't need to let it die down, because usually we let it die down and we get, like, comfortable and stuff like that. We just need to keep ramming it down their throats.
Yeah, I agree. I just think that with a good start, we just need to keep that. But I think that now, and I was saying yesterday, I feel like the first 10 minutes usually kind of indicates how the game is going to go. You start off really good. You keep pushing, no matter what happens. I feel like that's going to determine the game. And obviously, things can happen. But with this team, if we start off really good and we're, hitting, I think that's a good sign for us.
Cora?
Alexis, obviously last year you guys play in the tournament, but this year, being at Tennessee and playing in your home court, what's that been like for you? And I guess, how much fun have you been having in March?
It's an advantage because, we get our fans and things like that. We get our support, the people that keep us going and, encourages us. I feel like it's critical because, last year we didn't have many fans, but it's just like that atmosphere is just like it gives you a boost,
Any more questions for our student athletes? Okay. Thank you, Jordan and Alexis, for joining us.
Thank you.
We'll now take questions for Tennessee head coach Kelly Harper.
Coach, you know my standard one. What are the challenges of Belmont, and what do y'all face tomorrow night against them?
Well, I think if you look at Belmont and what they're able to do, they are excellent and efficient on both ends of the court. They can shoot it well. They pass it well. They're a low turnover team. They're very, very intelligent. They make the right decision. And a lot of that is on the defensive end as well. And so, I think they're not going to be intimidated. You look at their schedule; they've played a tough schedule. They made a run last year, and this is a very experienced basketball team, and they're going to come out and fight and do what they do. And what they do has been pretty good.
Down here in front, on the left.
Coach Tyler Wombles with the Daily Times. We've talked about it before. You're from Tennessee. You're the head coach of Tennessee's women's basketball team. When you're facing an in-state foe in the NCAA tournament, when you could play teams from across the country, what do you think that sort of says about, basketball in this state? Well,
obviously this is two good basketball teams playing against each other. There's no doubt that, there's some of those players over there that are, very very motivated to play their in-state team. To me, it could be a little bit more than just playing in the NCAA tournament. And so I think they'll be inspired and ready to go.
Madison?
Coach, just kind of following that, what do you think it just says to the game of women's basketball and to maybe little girls watching the game tomorrow to see two Tennessee teams, a mid-major and the legacy that the women's basketball team has here at Tennessee just competing? How special do you think that is?
Well, I think it tells you how much better women's basketball has gotten. We talked a little bit about the parity You know, at this point, anybody can win, and doesn't matter what your league is. Matters what you do now on the court, and there are a lot of really good teams. A lot of good teams that are probably better because they have some maybe fifth-year players. So I think we're seeing that across the board. You know, but there's just a lot of talent, a lot of talented teams. And especially in this state, I think when you look across the state, there's been some really good basketball played this year, and I think it is inspiring. You know, when I was growing up, the college teams were very successful in this state, and I think it, you know, gives you something to look at and to follow.
Over here on the right.
2 quick questions. First, has there been any update in Jordan Horson's status? Has she been able to participate anymore in practice?
No, Jordan, same for her. She can, like I said the other day, she can shoot some because she's the injury's on her left elbow, so she's been shooting, but that's about it.
And then secondly, Bart was talking about last night about the chip on his team's shoulder. There's players in that locker room that feel like they are maybe under-recruited. And, you know, you coached at Missouri State. I'm sure you had players like that too. How dangerous is a team like that when there's players who feel like they deserve better in the recruiting process?
I know exactly what they're going through right now. I lived that. I know exactly how motivated they are. I know exactly what that chip on their shoulder looks like. I've been there. And as a coach, I use that. So, you know, I saw, you know, they played last year. They want more than they did last year. That'd be one more win. So, I get it.
Here on the left.
Oh, hey, Coach. Kelly Instance with WATE. The freshmen continue to contribute big minutes, 14 total points, 4 assists, 12 rebounds, 2 steals combined from them. How would you assess their play last night in their first NCAA tournament?
Well, I'll tell you, our freshmen go out and they're typically pretty fearless. You know, they go out and they're trying to make plays, and they made good plays. They made a few mistakes, but you know, after the game, I kept thinking how much better they're going to be because they had that opportunity. And you know, I'm really excited for them and how they're playing. We finished practice, and we have at least 3 of those freshmen out doing extra work. You know, so they're very motivated. They're excited. They're having a ball. I'll say this: they're having a ball, and that energy is contagious.
Here on the right.
Coach, you mentioned Belmont wants more than they got last year. Would the same apply to Tennessee? Because you got stopped in the second round. I mean, obviously the kids don't carry the burden of Tennessee. You know what the Tennessee burden is and what its expectations are. On the other side of this, do you use that as motivation for your team? Let's get to our first Sweet 16 for this program since
I don't think I have to.
2016?
Yeah, I don't think I have to, Maria. I think this is a motivated team. They want it for this team. You know, there's a lot, you know, when you start thinking about numbers and win this and you got to do this for the program, and I get it. I understand we carry that. That's part of being a Lady Vol. But this team, they want to win. They just want to win. They want to advance. And the good thing is they understand it's not going to be easy, and you got to go out there and earn it. So I think that's the really exciting piece about this team, you know, and how competitive they are right now.
Kelly, kind of asked you the same thing as the players. You know, at one point in the season, people were picking your team as a Final Four favorite. And after everything that happened the last, you know, month or two, what does it mean to be at this moment? What would it mean, I guess, to you as a coach of this program to make the Sweet 16 and to make that statement?
Well, you know, I told the team today I love them. I love them, and I'm thankful and grateful for them. And I appreciate all that they've done and, you know, what they've been through this year and the ups and downs hasn't changed them as people. And, you know, I get to go out and coach a team that plays hard every single possession, and they try. We'll make mistakes, and we may not make every shot, or, you know, we'll mess up, but this is the team that I want to coach because they will fight. They will give us everything they've got, and I just appreciate that for. And when you have that as a coach, I just want to see them succeed. I want to see them have that opportunity, you know. And it's a really special group, and they've hung in there. They've hung in there this year, and would love to keep coaching them for a little bit longer.
Any more questions for Coach? Right here.
The one thing about women's basketball, it's been seeking over, I'm going back a couple decades now, is parity. Do you think we can safely say, looking at these scores across the country, particularly in these early rounds, that women's basketball has reached that point?
I think there is a lot of parity in women's basketball, and I think, going into this year, you could see a lot of talented teams, and getting to the NCAA tournament and just seeing, people are talking about upsets. I don't know if it's upsets. Once you get to the tournament, it's this team's playing this team. It just happens to have a number in front of their name, and it's more about matchups than numbers at that point. So I don't know how many upsets we've really seen. These teams are good. If you're in the NCAA tournament, you're there for a reason. You're there because you've won. You're there because you've passed a test, whether it's a conference tournament or you've passed this season-long test of showing your body of work is deserving of being there. But there's a lot of really good women's basketball teams right now. It's fun to watch because you can't predict it. You don't know what's going to happen next.
Just to follow up on that then, what's the challenge now of maybe trying to grow the game, not just on the court, but, growing fans and getting more support, across the whole sport? And how, is there any concrete steps that you've thought of or that might be helpful, or what could be next?
Oh, I wish I could give you a laundry list of items. There's a lot of people more creative than I am about how we can do those things, but I think right now, I feel like there's just a positive trajectory for women's basketball. I think we've got to find ways to build on the excitement that we've had. I mean, what a great first round that we've had. I mean, some really good games, some exciting basketball, some exciting individual players, some exciting teams. I think we just have to continue to grow on what our product is, and continue to talk about it. Continue to brag on it, and hopefully people will tune in. If you like sports, you got to tune in to women's basketball because it's worth it. It's good.
You're on the right.
Kelly, obviously different team than last year, but if you had to maybe sum it up or pinpoint something, what do you feel like would be the difference in why this team will be the one to make it to the Sweet 16?
This team for us we have a lot of grit. I do think we have a little bit more experience now. I think the NCAA tournament last year was great for us to have that experience, both the positive and the negative. And, our returners can think back and remember what that looks like. But, I think their toughness and their grit, their competitiveness is what gives them an opportunity to win basketball games.
We've got time for one more question. All right. Thank you, Coach, for joining us.
All right. Thank you, guys.